What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Boozer here. Thanks for stopping by. Hopefully, you guys have a great day so far. In today's video, we got the brand new Echoes of Oz update in game. You can see the Bastion all covered in yellow bricks and green stuff. Looks pretty cool, actually. With the update, it brought the brand new fusion into the game, and that's going to be for the Cowardly Lion. I apologize for the video being slightly late because Plarium did not give us the schedule in advance, or they gave it to us when I was sleeping, so didn't get a chance to go over it until I woke up. But anyways, let's jump into this fusion plan here. Right here, we got the Cowardly Lion up for grabs. Now, there's a couple reasons to go for this fusion. First of all, the Cowardly Lion is a very, very good champion. If you guys haven't seen the showcase on the Cowardly Lion, make sure you guys check that out. I'll provide a link to that somewhere here. But yeah, he's a very good champion. In some cases, he's an insane champion, depending on your account. There's other reasons to go for this fusion. First of all, it is a hybrid fusion, which means you get a fusion token out of it, an exchange token. And second of all, more future value is that we know that the champion proving grounds will be including the Cowardly Lion in the top priority pool for the next rotation. So if you pick up the Cowardly Lion here, you can use them next month, and it might make the champion proving grounds dungeon a bit easier for you. So just some additional incentive for you guys in regards to going for this fusion. Now, this fusion here, it's going to be a mixed fusion, which means we will be collecting fragments to build up these Manslayer epics from the Argonite faction. And then we have to level those epics up and then fuse up those epics, and then we get the lion at the end. You can see here the fragments. We have a total of 500 available, and we will need 400 of those fragments to build up 4 copies of the Manslayer epics. I don't really know how to pronounce the Manslayer's name. Antigone? Is it Antigone? This champion right here, Antigone, I'm not too sure. But in terms of the epic quality, she's not bad. She has an A1 team heal. She has an AoE weaken with the shield, and then she has this kind of weird cleanse. She has some, extra hate on for poisons and HP burns. This is kind of a strange cleanse. It's kind of weakish, but it's a cleanse where it takes the debuffs from your team and then transfers them, which is obviously higher value than just a cleanse. But it's not a full cleanse, it's only a partial cleanse. And then she has a passive that reacts to just poison and HP burn. So I mean, she doesn't seem like a crazy epic, but she doesn't seem bad. She could be useful in some cases, but in this case, we're just going to go and fuse up for her. And yeah, we're going to be building up our lions. So let's take a look at the schedule of events here. First up, on day 1, we're going to start off with the Dragon Tournament. It's going to run alongside the gear enhancement events. So any of these dungeon tournaments, you have to allot at least 2,200 energy for, and the most efficient way to do these dungeon tournaments is doing stage 16 or stage 20. Rough conversion is about 1 energy per point, so about 2,200 for each one of these tournaments. So the Fire Knight, 2,200, Spider, Ice Golem, same thing. Okay, so all 4 of those about 2,200 energy. The gear enhancement events, usually about 20 million. It really depends. You can get lucky and hit it for 15. If you get unlucky, you hit it for 25, but you need about 20 million. You don't need to start the fusion with 20 million, but you need 20 million to finish off this gear enhancement event. Quick strategies to completing these gear enhancement events. Sorry, quick strategy here is to basically level up a lot of items to level 4. That's probably the best way in terms of saving silver. The worst way is probably just upgrading items all the way to 16. It's the most expensive. It gives you a lot of points, but it's also the most expensive. My recommendation is to go with many, many items up to level 4 or a level 12. And we have, looks like 3 of those enhancement events. It's pretty standard for all the fusions nowadays. Okay, on day 2, we do start the Gear Hunters event here. So I would recommend waiting until day 2 on your dragon and then putting your energy into the Gear Hunters event. We do have a Sand Devil event still active right now, so maybe finish off the Sand Devil event if you guys are going for that before committing your big energy tomorrow when the Gear Hunters event opens, so that you can double dip with the dragon and the Gear Hunters. As you finish off the Dragon Tournament, near the end of the first Gear Hunters event, we have the Fire Knight Tournament opening. And this is where you really want to pour in the energy into the Fire Knight while the Gear Hunters 1 is still open. So then you're effectively working on 2 tournaments at the same time as the 1 Gear Hunters. Each Gear Hunter event is probably going to cost you between 5 and 5.5k energy, depending on what dungeon you're working on. So if you're doing the most efficient dungeons, then it's going to cost you about 5k. If you're doing a stage 10, for example, it's going to cost you about 5.5, 5.6k. So you can kind of see that each one of these Gear Hunters events cost way more than one of these tournaments. That's why we always want to do at least 2 tournaments into one Gear Hunters event if we can do that, so that we're not wasting energy outside of Gear Hunters events. Unfortunately, we have the champion training tournament or champion training event happening alongside a Fire Knight tournament, which isn't ideal because Fire Knight, it's not that easy to find any kind of team to farm food at the same time. So you can't use your energy to double dip into the dungeon and double dip into training. Um, yeah, it's just what it is. It's not that friendly in terms of an overall setup. You much rather have champion training with the Dragon tournament, for example. It's just easier to make that work. So I could see some issues here with this champion training event, just being a little bit more costly or a little bit more clumsy in terms of the overall layout. Also, starting on the weekend, we have these classic arena takedowns. 2 of these here, pretty standard. These are easy, gimme events. Just make sure you do your classic arena. All right, so for the first weekend, we did look over here the champion chase tournament. So this champion chase tournament is going to be 75 fragments in this champion chase tournament. We did get a confirmation that these green slots of 25 are not winner take all fragments. They're just part of the thresholds. Now we have 3 of these segments here. So in previous champion chase tournaments where there's 3 different prize thresholds, it's been kind of all over the place a little bit. The previous fusion, we saw that they were quite expensive, and then the same kind of fusion previous to that, it was much more reasonable, right? So we were able to get, for example, 15 fragments for Folan for 3,000 points, and then 15 fragments last fusion was, I believe, 5,500 points. It was quite a big difference. So I'm really not sure what to expect for this champion chase. You got 3 thresholds here. This could be 3,000 points or it could be 5,500 points. So in either case, we have to be quite prepared for this. If Plarium's following the standard rotation, it should be 2x Sacred Shards. Again, if they're following the rotation, so 2x Sacred Shards, and that's going to be bad news because Sacred Shards are not very efficient at handling champion chase. Each one of the Sacred Shards, even on a boosted rate, is going to get you 280 points. So for example, if this is going to be 5,500 for 15 fragments, it's going to cost you upwards of 20 Sacred Shards, right? Of course you can use other pulls and summons and stuff like that to get points, but in terms of just using Sacred Shards, it's not as efficient as using it for a normal summon rush. So this is a good event for you to use fragment summons, for you to pull your remnant summons, prism pulls, or anything like that, mystery shards, all the smaller shards to try to make up the points for it. But if it's going to be a high point threshold for this, it's going to be very difficult, and it's better to save the Sacred Shards for summon rushes instead of champion chases. Let's keep looking over the fusion plan here for a second before we conclude on what we want to do for the summoning events. Okay, so midweek, at the beginning of the week, we have the second Gear Hunters event, and that is going to line up a little bit. It doesn't actually look like it's going to line up with the Fire Knight, but it's going to be all Ice Golem here on this second Gear Hunters. My guess is that there's probably going to be the event dungeon tournament that's going to open up somewhere here. So then we do have an opportunity to probably double dip with the event dungeon plus the Ice Golem tournament. Now the event dungeon, it's going to give you the opportunity to save a little bit of energy because stage 3 in the event dungeon is very efficient at completing Gear Hunter events. However, stage 3 for tournaments is not that efficient. So if you're doing event dungeon tournaments, it's not going to be that great to do stage 3. But if you're just caring about Gear Hunter event points, then you're going to want to do stage 3 to be the most efficient, but you're not going to get any gear out of it. In any case, the second Gear Hunter, again, it's going to be upwards of 5.5k in terms of energy, depending on the dungeon that you're doing, or as low as 5k. And then you have the Ice Golem again, 2.2k energy right there. It's going to lead into the start of a champion training tournament. Champion training with Ice Golem's okay. There are some, solo opportunities there, but you don't have too much time. It leads into a spider tournament, which again is very good. So you can just solo spider with some food, and that's going to be able to double dip with the champion training tournament. And unfortunately, the Gear Hunters is only aligned with the spider tournament. So this is another 5.5k here at the end just for the spider tournament and the training event. And lastly, we do have a second summoning event here. The summon rush, it will have 75 fragments in this one. And we can say with relative confidence that 75 fragments will probably cost us somewhere around 10 or 11 sacred shards worth of points, about 5,500 points, 6,000 points roughly. So from purely a sacred standpoint, if you're planning to use sacred shards, you really want to use sacred shards during this summon rush, okay? At the very end. You don't want to use the summon rush. You don't want to use the sacred shards during the champion chase and be enticed by the 2x boosted rates. You're not getting the best value for them using them during champion chases. You want to use them during summon rushes if you can help it. I would fully expect some kind of progressive event to also be aligned with each one of these summon rushes. That's going to focus on some of these Echo of Oz champions. So whether it's going to be the Tin Man, Scarecrow, Alzilda, stuff like that, it's all going to have their own, boosted events. Most likely. Those are my guesses. So what we're thinking, what are we looking at in terms of this schedule? Honestly, this schedule looks quite clumsy and expensive from an energy standpoint. There's not too much overlap in terms of having multiple events happening during Gear Hunters. You see the first Gear Hunters, we have Dragon mostly, and at the tail end, we have Fire Knight. It's going to be hard to jam a lot of energy into the Fire Knight. While the Gear Hunters is active. So you're most likely going to have to spend a bunch of gems on the first Gear Hunters, unfortunately. The training event is also not too player friendly, aligned with the Fire Knight. And again, just on the tail end of the Gear Hunters. So you're not getting too much credit there for the champion training. So farming campaigns probably not recommended there. So you would probably just use brews and rank ups for the champion training event. And then save your campaign running while the champion training is active during a Gear Hunters event, which is the third one. So we can also see the second Gear Hunters event. There's no other tournament besides just the Ice Golem running alongside it. So again, that's going to be some extra gems that you may or may not want to use. But you're going to have to throw some extra gems into that Gear Hunters if you want to get that done. And then lastly, the same story here with the Gear Hunters event running alongside just a single spider tournament. So again, extra gems will need to be spent over there. If you tally it all up, it's a bunch of extra gem spending that we otherwise, don't really spend that much on normal fusions if the events are lined properly. So I would say you probably need somewhere around 2,000 gems just to feel a little bit comfortable. Again, this is 2,000 gems spread over 2 weeks, just to feel a little bit comfortable with spending the energy and spreading it out. Obviously, fusions are a lot easier if you're active every day. Make sure you guys are doing your advanced quests. Make sure you guys are grinding Doom Tower, Grim Forest, getting those energy nodes from those levels. As for how we are going to navigate these summoning events, there's only going to be 2 summoning events, so there's going to be less options. Keep in mind that you don't want to miss any of these fragments, but if you do miss them, there is opportunity to make them up here through shards. So the extra shard fragments from the summoning events, Champion Chase and the Summon Rush, are totally optional. If you just complete the 25 from each of them, you can call it quits. I think that might be the easiest play. So basically go into the Champion Chase, get the standard required 25, using things like remnants, using things like mystery shards, the lower quality shards, fragment summons, perhaps. Like, for example, I have Masamoto I kind of want to pull. But basically get the champion chase done for the 25 fragments as cheaply as possible without pulling shards. You can totally do that, definitely without pulling sacred shard. And then go into the summon rush in the last weekend, and then go for the 25 here as well. And then just, that's it. Call it quit. That's probably the most shard efficient path. Complete both of the events using as little shards as possible. And I would expect the first threshold for the summon rush, the first threshold right here for 25, probably to be around 4 or 5 4 or 5 or 6 sacred shards price. I would say probably 4 for the first 25. So you could theoretically get this fusion done relatively cheaply in terms of shards, it looks like, as long as you preserve your sacred shards for the summon rush and not spend them on the champion chase. But I do see a high energy cost for this fusion. So make sure you guys are prepared with like event energy, gems, inbox energy, anything like that that you guys saved. You guys will probably be spending it. Like I said, there's going to be a lot of extra energy spend just to complete some of these gear hunters. Now, if you don't have a lot of energy, this is the part where the fusion is kind of flexible. If you don't have a lot of energy to complete this fusion plan, and you guys have a lot of shards, then you can go for, the extra fragments in the champion chase or the summon rush, get the extra fragments, and then, remove one of these, really bad energy events like the gear hunter events. It really depends what kind of resources you guys have on your account. If you guys value the energy savings a little bit more, then you guys can spend some shards to save the energy. Really depends what you guys have. But I do like that there is extra fragments here for, some catch up potential if you guys mess something up. All right, guys. So that's going to be it for this fusion breakdown here. Like I said, the Cowardly Lion, very, very solid champion. Make sure you guys check out the showcase on this channel for him. Again, he did very, very well in the preliminary tests. There's also value here because it's a mixed fusion so that you can get the fusion token. And of course, you can use the Cowardly Lion next month for the champion proving grounds. The fusion layout doesn't look that great in terms of energy savings, so be prepared to spend some extra energy during this fusion. However, if you have extra shards, you guys can go for some extra fragments in some of the summoning events and then remove some of those energy spending events. It really depends on what your account has in terms of resources. But I think this fusion can be done relatively cheaply in terms of spending shards. Just make sure to not spend your sacred shards during a champion chase and save those for the summon rush. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for this video. Hopefully it was informative and helpful for you guys. Let me know in the comments below if it was. If I made any mistakes, let me know in the comments as well. Always appreciate your feedback on these. Thanks so much for watching until the end. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.